Coming to you right from PDAC in Toronto, welcome to the Market Frontlines. I'm Lindsay Melchek. The energy here is electric. Capital is moving, narratives are shifting, and in a market that is hungry for real copper discovery stories, I'm sitting down with someone who is no stranger to build-outs. Ivan Bebek, CEO of Coppernico Metals. Ivan has built companies before. He's raised hundreds of millions of dollars. He understands discovery cycles. He understands market cycles. And now he's at the helm of Coppernico Metals, advancing what could be a significant skarn and porphyry system in Peru. Gravity surveys, magnetic surveys, large-scale targets being refined. Big geology, big ambition. But this market is impatient. Ivan, it's great to have you here. It's been so long since you and I have been able to just sit down and chat, so I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. It's an exciting time, not just with our company, but also with the whole market and the world copper supply-demand story. It couldn't be better.
So we are definitely in a market where it's not just gold, gold, gold anymore. I mean, you hear a lot about silver, you hear a lot more about copper, and there's that buzz coming in. Like, what about copper? What are you feeling on your end of the stick?
The market's always been led by gold, and silver's always been the best performer. We see that if you look at the charts of how well they've done in the last year.
Yeah.
But the real new paradigm is copper. And so if you go back to the 80s, or even before that in the 50s, when the world was being built, a lot of the infrastructure in the world needs to be modernized. That's a big factor. The population has doubled since the 80s. And the average grade of a copper mine on the planet has dropped from 2% in the late 90s to about 0.5%, which is incredibly low. What that means is you have to crush and move a lot more rock to get the same amount of copper out. What the world wasn't ready for was the electrification. They weren't ready for that era. So double the population, electrification, and a rebuilding of the planet and expanding of certain countries like China and developing countries like India. So we're hit a new paradigm. The easy copper mines have been found. The big ones are halfway gone. There's very few. I think in the last 10 years, there's been a couple of copper discoveries, but they're not going to meet the threshold that we need.
Yeah.
Filo mining was a big one. We all saw that. That took 23 years before that big discovery hole. But at current metal prices, they only have an IRR of 15% because it's quite deep and it's up in the mountains. It's a challenging target, right? I heard the number was about 4 Filos a year for the next 6 years to meet the threshold to get into 2030, 2032. And that's not going to happen. And so copper's now become a very, very critical metal if you want a green planet. And the discoveries are very sparse. The discoveries in gold are sparse. Discoveries in silver, everything is harder to find, which means discoveries are going to be worth more than ever they have been in history.
That's right. So what we see a lot with silver too, and maybe you can shed some light on this, is silver is usually a secondary finding. With copper, that's the same thing, because silver, it's not just that there's a lack of silver out there, it's that it's so hard to get the permitting in place to produce and get those mines up and running. How does that look on the copper side?
That's a really good point, because copper mines tend to be massive holes in the ground, which means significant social impact, significant environmental impact. Permits are way more challenging than they've ever been before. In the 80s, things were done with less scrutiny on permitting. Mining had a bad look to it. And the world's gone really hard in the right direction to clean it up. But what that's done now, it's created a lot of red tape. It's created a lot of more challenges. We're in Peru. Peru is one of the most endowed countries in the world for copper, gold, and silver. But it's not easy. We've spent 8.5 years to establish rapport with the local communities. We brought agriculture in a program with the government called AgroDias. So we've formed a partnership with these community members. We've given jobs, but it took us 8.5 years just to get our first permit so we could go and drill. That is a very common timeline around major type of discoveries like we're going for. Our evidence was strong enough that we would spend the time and at $50 million to get to this conversation, and now it's 10 years into the project, but it has one of the best copper showings, or the best in the world, with a lot of 1% copper on surface, significant targets underneath it. You talked about gravity, and we x-ray the earth, to be real simple about it, and we use gravity, or we use magnetic signals or electrical signals to see if we can find the shape of what's on surface, kind of like the tip of the iceberg, hopefully, is outcropping on surface for erosion, and then what's underneath it. And that's how we're going to speculate. What's really unique about where we're at is we analog to the 11th largest copper mine in the world by scale of footprint of how many things we're seeing. We have numerous targets to go drill, but we have some of the most compelling evidence on surface on a project that hasn't been drilled much. And there's already 8 holes that hit the discovery. So it's got very low risk and very high probability of a very rich copper deposit.
Right. So that leads me actually into the next question. Ivan, you've been in this industry for a very long time. You've raised some really serious capital. And investors are asking one simple question here. What's the holdup? They want to see those drill programs. They want to see all of that come to the surface. What is it? Is it capital constraint? What's setting you back from just hitting that aggressive drill program?
Yeah, so definitely not capital constraint. Teck and Newmont are shareholders of the company.
Right.
Several other majors would like to be shareholders. Why? Because we might have the next major copper discovery globally. It sits on surface with infrastructure, incredible grades. It meets all the threshold, and it has a scale that attracts the larger mining companies of the world. I've been here for 1 week in Toronto. I got offered 3 times the amount of money that I need to go drilling with. I have some very good news coming from the project, and I have permit advancements coming as well. I can drill today, but I'll be more technically ready because we're preparing for drilling in the 3rd week of April. And once we start drilling, we have a series of permits and additional community agreements that are going to come together. We will be able to drill for 18 months, one of the most aggressive discovery programs globally for a big copper discovery. Very strategic with timing. You talked earlier about timing discovery with markets.
Yeah.
I wish I could take credit for this project coming online to be drilled in the most perfect copper environment you could possibly dream for. It's accidental on purpose, and it took longer, but we're sitting here in the eye of $6 copper, which I think doubles in the next 3-4 years. There's no quick solution. There's no shortage of low-grade copper, but the time it's going to take to get copper online. For us, we needed a few more layers of evidence before we drill. The first 20 holes we drilled for knowledge. We used the right studies after we drilled those to x-ray the earth and see where to go drill next. And we just announced and started to show people how big the scale of these targets are. They're multiple kilometers in length. And to give you context, a lot of the major mines are 1.5 kilometers. We have about 10 kilometers of continuous targets in some areas, which is next level.
Yeah.
The grade on surface supports the confidence that could continue beneath the surface. And so we're getting ready to drill in April, and we'll be funded before then. And it's more about picking the best strategic investor that you can bring into the registry. We own quite a bit as management. Teck and Newmont are large shareholders, but we have more news to come out before we do any kind of finance.
That's super exciting. Now, there is a lot of lack of education around Peru, and it's very resource rich. Can you give us a little bit of highlight on what makes Peru such a story that investors should be following more closely?
Okay, great question. The Endowment, number one, it's got some of the largest copper mines in the world. It's got, I think, 3 or 4 of the top 10, which is massive. They are the 3rd largest producer of copper, I believe, 2nd largest producer of gold. You have a 61 million ounce gold deposit called Yanacocha. Cerro Verde is one of the largest copper deposits in the world. Las Bambas, next to us, is another major one. So it's incredible endowment. That's what drew us in. I believe there's been 9 presidents in the last 10 years. Wow. There's been a couple impeachments. The political landscape has looked difficult, but over 20% of their GDP comes from mining, and they protect mining at all costs. It never has interrupted mining from a political standpoint. There's a very good mining culture. The only knock against Peru, and it's very public, is it takes time to get permits. And so the country is behaving really responsibly to make sure that things are done at the strictest levels from environmental. And social has not been that easy because a lot of these areas have not seen mining before. They're rural areas, and education is key on these communities. So we lived in the community with 3 of our community members for the last 10 years, and bringing in these agricultural programs I'm presenting tomorrow here at PDAC for the work we've done there in a way that we can cohabitate with the local communities, create a sustainable, very positive impact with our partnerships. And it's something we're very proud of. We were the first to do this in South America as a junior. Major mining companies are following suit. But as far as Peru goes, it's massive discoveries. It has a lot of the answers. It's underexplored. There's a lot of potential big answers to the copper supply that we're talking about. And it's an area that we've grown very comfortable with in the last decade.
That's a beautiful story. And, the community there seems to be so undervalued as well. So it's great that you're actually bringing them in and educating them in a totally different sector they've never really even heard about. That's really important.
Yeah, the community is actually more important than the government, because the community can actually they will stop your mine before the government can, and the government can't turn it on if they stop it. For us, and having found a mine in Africa that's in production, with a big gold mine, doing business in Mexico and now in Peru, we've taken an early approach, my team and my management team, as well as my board of directors. We take the approach of that we want the footprint to be sustainable. We want it to be positive, whether we find a mine or not.
Right.
We've chosen a project that has a lot of early evidence that it could be a major mine. And to get a premium for our shareholders, or to be able to possibly sell it down the road, the community is going to be key. And we want to make sure they're treated really well before and after we leave. So prioritizing the communities has been big. The cost has been nominal. It's the time that's really key, because they got to know us and we got to know them. On our project, we have not had a safety incident in 10 years. And it just comes to the level of discipline and respect that we have for not just the environment, but for the local people that are there.
I think that's the key aspect of your story that I think a lot of investors are missing, is you're taking the time to do it properly. You're not rushing into it so much. So while investors, they're all sitting there going, but when? If you stop and you take a look, your story is developing not just your mind, but you're developing an entire sector over there that they've never heard about. So well done on that, for sure.
Well, that's a good point. And timing. So I've had some great discoveries and great monetizing events for shareholders in my career. What I underestimated with Sombrero, this big project, was the time it would take. People ask me, how long did you think it would be to get to this point? I thought it would be in 3 to 5 years. It's year 10. The first stock I ever bought in my career was in 1995. I bought a company called African Minerals. It took 17 years to go public.
Yeah.
I believe now it's been 32 years in the making, and it's obviously one of the world's largest new copper discoveries that are on board. And then I looked at the Filo discovery with the Lundin family 23 years later. So what is the big takeaway there? The major mines take time. And I want to say that it's been a long 10 years, but I've been educated recently that that's short, to get to this stage where we're at. The most important thing about it is the next 18 months will be our discovery run on this project. We will get to drill the best targets. We will get to expand an existing discovery, and we get to test some of these amazing projects or targets that we've developed. So if you're hearing about this for the first time, you've just saved 10 years and $50 million of capital of waiting for this moment. And if you've owned us for 10 years, I'm really, really thankful for your patience. It's worth it. Every layer of data we've taken on the project has gotten better. The confidence has grown better. Everything is better than it was. So as tough as it's been, it's very much worth the wait. There's a lot of news to come out in the next 45 days from the project. We've seen some pretty cool revelations geologically right as we get ready to drill. And there's some big surprises that we just got heard of this weekend. And so we're really excited as we get ready to turn the drills here in the third week of April.
Well, we're excited to hear it. So, Evan, if we are sitting here in PDAC 2027, what would a headline be that you would want to hit the ground at PDAC 2027 with?
That's a great question. There's one target in our project called Newmont. Newmont has tens of meters of 1% copper on surface, has 150, 160 meters of 0.5% copper. And it's limited by the ground cover, the volcanics, so you don't have full exposure. So we trench our channel sampled as far as we can before it disappears. What's exciting about Newmont is not that it's 2 kilometers long as a target, but it has an overlapping magnetic chargeability and gravity signal that goes down for over 1,000 meters.
Oh, and the plot thickens.
And you said, what would I like to see? I want to see what happens when you drill 1,000 meters underneath 1% copper from surface. And so it's got the dimensions. Obviously, we don't know what grade's going to do, but just seeing a target that starts at surface, goes down 1,000 meters, that has 1%, 0.5%, 0.8 right on surface, it could be a big one. So I'd like to sit here in PDAC 2027 with the results of that drill hole, whether it's 200 meters or 1,000 meters of incredible grade of copper. And I want to change the world's copper discovery curve by finding a big one.
That's amazing. Well, we can't wait to have you back for sure. Thank you so much for sitting with me.
So much for having me.
Absolutely. Again, that was Ivan Bebek, CEO of Coppernico Metals, trading on the TSX under COPR, on the OTCQB under CPPMF. and in Frankfurt under 9I3. And you can learn more about Ivan, about Coppernico, all over on their website, coppernicometals.com. PDAC is full of stories. The market is full of promises. Yet in copper, scale and speed matter. The next year will show who is serious about building the next meaningful deposit and who is simply just refining targets. I'm Lindsay Melchick with Abaton Media right here at PDAC, and this has been the Market Front Lines. Stay tuned, there's more to come.